Hello and welcome. This is a tutorial for the song Luka, Chuppi from a Bollywood film called Rang de Basanti. Now, if you're a regular subscriber, especially from the US, this is going to feel like something out of left field, and it kind of is. So there was a commenter on a video from India who then directly reached out to me and said, hey, I love this song, I think you'll love it too. Could you maybe do a tutorial on it because I can't find a good one on YouTube and I think you might be able to figure it out. This song has actually been a really big challenge, which leads me into how we're gonna go about this. So first of all, I believe in translating songs, not transcribing them. Specifically if you have a band arrangement. So this song has at least one acoustic guitar track. It has electric bass. It has multiple different string instruments. There's also keyboard, kind of what you call pad sounds. There's lots of percussion, and the vocals are really, really hot. They are really loud in the mix. And so once the singing starts, it is hard to hear the guitar, but also the guitar is one part of what creates the harmony and the overall feel of this song. And just like when you're translating something from one language to another, a word for word transcription might work really well, but oftentimes certain idioms or turns of phrase don't make sense if they're word for word. You have to translate them into something that makes sense in its meaning in the destination language. And in the same way, if this is arranged for the acoustic guitar and you're just gonna play exactly what was played on the record, it's not gonna sound right, it's not gonna feel right, it will be kind of boring because the guitar needs to be pared down to fit with all those other instruments. So in this video, I'm gonna show you what, as far as I can figure out, the original guitar player was playing, and I'm gonna show you a couple of little changes that I might make to more fit the overall harmony of the recording. And lastly, before I get into it, I'm not gonna go note by note, measure by measure throughout this whole thing in linear fashion. So I'm just gonna show you the kind of core different chord progressions, and I'll put some timestamps as to where they first appear in the song. And then if you're able to actually play them, then you shouldn't have any trouble putting them together to make up the whole arrangement of the whole song. Let's get right into it. So the song is in E major, and the main chords that we're gonna play are E, F sharp minor, A, and B. But the way that we play these is really important. So it starts off up here on 7th position. So you are basically playing what would amount to an A-shaped bar chord in 7th position, but you're only playing the root note on the 7th fret, 4th string, and 3rd string on the 9th fret, and then everything else is open. And that is immediately followed by an E major 7, where you take your pinky on the 3rd string and drop it down to the 8th fret. And that is one of the main core concepts of this song, is going back and forth between the E and the E major 7. And it's played with a strum pattern like so. And you might try strumming a little harder on the bass, and then a little harder on the treble, like this. Now at the beginning, he actually does a hammer on, so he's hammering on his ring finger on the 4th string, and he's barring the 4th string with his index finger on the 7th position. And so it ends up sounding like this. And the same thing on the next chord. In context, it sounds like this. Now you don't need to play the hammer on, he only does it at the very beginning of the song, and as far as you can hear it, never happens again. So you can throw that in there if you want. If it's too hard for you, don't worry about it. Immediately following that, he plays an E chord to an A chord, but he's putting a G sharp in the bass, and the voicing is gonna be like your normal open E chord, except you're going to mute the 5th string with the tip of your middle finger, and you're gonna play the 6th string on the 4th fret. That's G sharp. So you can see everything's ringing except the 5th string. And then he goes to an A, commonly called an A sus2. So A chord, but the 2nd string is not fretted on the 2nd fret, it's open. So you get, he does that twice, and then he plays the E, G sharp in the bass, also called E over G sharp, to an F sharp minor 7, which for all intents and purposes is that same A2 chord with the 6th string on the 2nd fret, which is F sharp. A major and F sharp minor are relative major and minor. And so you can play an A chord and put the F sharp in the bass and get an F sharp minor chord. All together, it looks like this. And then he goes back up to that 7th position and plays a new chord. Now, this chord is essentially an E6 chord. You're taking and playing the 6th note in the scale, which would be a C sharp, which is on the 4th string, 11th fret, and then going back to your E major 7 chord. So that sounds like, and then it starts again, and that's 6 measures long. So the whole thing goes. And then on beat 1, it goes back to E, and that's where that first little melody, that dun 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 da 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 dun dun dun, that starts for the first time. And what he plays is E, E major 7, E6, E major 7, over and over and over again until the first verse starts with the female vocals. So that would sound like this. Once the vocals start, it's basically bouncing back and forth between these 3 chords up here and these chords down here. Now it goes on for quite a while until the second vocalist comes in, which is the sun in the storyline. Now at the point where the melody becomes at that point, you could continue that same chord progression, but the implied harmony is a little bit more like this. And you'll see on YouTube some guitar players playing it that way. Now, if you listen carefully, that is not what the guitar is playing, but that is the sound of the strings and the guitar and everything that's going on. So what I'm playing there is I'm bouncing back and forth between E, B major over E, which is essentially your normal E shape, but played with your index finger on the 8th fret, middle and ring finger on the 9th fret. All strings are ringing, so 6, 2, and 1 are open. And then the next one is an A with an E in the bass, an A over E, which is the same thing but 2 frets lower, so 6th fret and 7th fret. And so instead of the original figure, which is played like this, again, I'm pretty sure that is what the guitar is playing. The song sounds more like. And I think that sounds so much better as an acoustic arrangement. At the very end of that, instead of ending with the B major over E, the harmony actually changes to a B minor chord. And so instead of doing the E major shape here, you could do an E minor shape. Or an E minor 7, which instead of playing 5th string and 4th string on the 9th fret and index on the 7th, you could play only the 5th string on the 9th fret and 4th string and 3rd string on the 7th. So in context, that would sound like. And that naturally translates into the final part I want to show you, which is where we have a walking bass line. The first time that we have the vocals come in, it goes E over G sharp to A sus2. But after that first B minor harmony, it starts walking up from E to F sharp minor to E over G sharp to A to E over B, so 5th string bass note, to then B, 2nd fret, 4th fret, 4th fret on the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, and then opens 1st and 2nd string. So in context, Now, the bass guitar does walk with the acoustic guitar that first time we have the walking bass line where the bass note, again, just for clarity, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. Then the second time, the acoustic guitar, it's hard, again, it's so hard to hear, but the acoustic guitar does continue that walk up from E up to B as the chords are still changing each time. But the bass guitar kind of really starts to show off here and does a lot of octave jumping and subbing out bass notes. Again, typically for either the third or the fifth of whatever chord's being played, but because they're jumping octaves around, you could try and do that on the acoustic guitar, but you just don't really have the range, and so you wouldn't notice it as bass notes as much as just you'd have some chords that do have bass notes, and then when the bass guitar jumps an octave and you try to follow that change, you're just gonna then sound like you didn't put a bass note into that chord if you bring your bass note up an octave. Now, the only other thing I need to cover about this song is there is one chord at this timestamp. It sounds like it goes outside of the key, which it does, and there's a little bit of debate, is it a B minor chord or a D major chord? Now, as I kind of referenced earlier with A and F sharp, D and B are relative major and minor, and so sometimes in harmony, especially very intricate, hard to decipher harmony, you kind of could play either one and it would work. You could play a B minor or you could play a D major. Either one would work as long as you're still maintaining your first and second string ringing, because that's kind of the nature of how harmony works. It's somewhat dependent on your perspective, and some things are somewhat interchangeable depending upon how you do the arrangement. Personally, I would play a D chord. I think it does sound more like D rather than B minor. Those are the two options. You could do either one though. It really is not gonna hurt the song either way. So the way that I'm playing the D, I'm gonna use that same A chord shape that can be used as a bar chord to move up the neck. And if you place that in fifth position, that's D major, right? And so what we're gonna play is just the fifth string note, fourth string note, and third string note. And so they are on the fifth, seventh, and seventh respectively. You're gonna mute the sixth string with the tip of your finger by kind of over fretting here, the tip of your index finger, and then you're gonna let the first and second string ring open. If you wanna play B minor, it's a little bit trickier, but what you're gonna play is middle finger and index finger are going to be on the fourth and third string on the seventh fret, and your thumb is going to play the sixth string on the seventh fret. You could do it with your third if you've got a big hand. For normal sized hands like me, use your pinky finger to reach on the fifth string to the ninth fret, and then first and second are also open. Well, you gotta actually play it right. There we go. You also could use this fingering, which is where you do a partial bar with your index finger. So your index finger is barring the sixth, fifth, even though it doesn't ring out at that position, and fourth string, so sixth, fifth, and fourth string. And then your middle finger tucks underneath and gets the third string. Again, all on the seventh fret while your pinky's still sitting up here on the ninth. So depending upon your hand size and the neck shape on your guitar, you might prefer this fingering, or you might prefer this fingering. This is definitely how I like to go. I think that's everything you need. If you are able to play these chords and do this strum pattern and actually change in time, then you probably can put this whole song together and hopefully make a great live acoustic arrangement of it. My name is Luke Walstead. Thank you for watching, and reach out to me directly if you have more song requests. I'll see you in the next video.